rest here. So we got some news in Eagle Land. Nothing crazy, but I did want to start the show by giving a little love to Darius Slay, John. He announced his retirement from the NFL yesterday. Obviously, 5 seasons with the Philadelphia Eagles, won a Super Bowl with the Philadelphia Eagles. I believe he played, I don't know how many years his career was, John. Was it 10 plus, a 10 plus year?
Yeah, hell yeah. I think it
Yeah,
was
so
13.
Darius Slay, hell of a career, man, for big play Slay.
Yeah, borderline Hall of Famer, 6 Pro Bowls. You mentioned the Super Bowl championship when he was here, team captain, all that stuff. I always think of this off the field stuff about Slay before I get to on the field, which was plenty good. 2nd-round pick at a Mississippi State theme college, obviously, is Fletcher Cox back in 2013. Another example of, sometimes it's better to be lucky than good, because the Eagles wanted, for those who remember, Byron Jones in free agency. The big Byron Jones. Byron Jones was going to come in and shut the big shutdown corner, and they didn't get him. Miami overspent for him. He didn't do much, and the Eagles went and traded for Slay, and he turned into I think he made 3 of his Pro Bowls here, 3 of his 6. So he's already a Pro Bowl level corner in Detroit. But man, just a great guy, great dude, great teammate. Everybody raves about him. You probably saw it yesterday. His impact on the younger corners. I just remember another guy people don't remember. Footnote: Devin Allen, the track star, the Olympian, when he was trying to become an Eagles receiver. I remember, he had just gotten here and he was still trying to do both, and he was going to run in the Penn relays. And nobody knew Devin Allen. He just got here. He's trying to restart his football career. And
Right.
Slay's rounding up people in the locker room to go to the Penn relays to support him, just because he's an Eagle, and he wanted sort of to ingratiate him into the club, so to speak. And I'm sure you saw some of the playful clips, him and Devontae. They had a great relationship. Quinyon, I remember Howie saying he wanted him to live with Slay, just learn from him. Cooper DeJean, Josh Jobe, who's gone on to become a starter in Seattle. Just so many. Avonte Maddox, checking in. Just, that's the kind of stuff that I think people don't see. Behind the scenes, his wife's banana pudding was a big deal. We bring that into the locker room. Just, all around great dude. And then when you back it up with great play on the field, really, really one of Howie Roseman's best trades, I would say.
You think he's an Eagle Ring of Honor guy, John?
Oh yeah. Yeah. What's not, 3 Pro Bowls in 5 years, Super Bowl, 2 Super Bowls, win a Super Bowl. I mean, he was a huge part of this run. Just like all the other star players. And I think, even even in Quinyon's rookie season, I think people didn't understand, he still had all the responsibilities as the cornerback 1. He was still the guy as late as then. And you can argue maybe shouldn't be, because Quinyon was so talented and hit the ground running. But part of that was Slay, like Roseman is saying. He's like, if I could, have you live with him, I would. Just to learn how to be a professional. And he did it, man. He was, and he always harkened back to Glover Quinn. I remember it was Glover Quinn and Rashawn Mathis, in Detroit, who were, as he would say, the old heads in Detroit who took him under their wing and weren't dicks and tried to teach him how to be a professional. And from that point forward, he thought that was his job, because that's how he was sort of raised in the NFL. And he became the old head, sort of bringing
Right.
all the young players. And, that's something that, maybe it wouldn't happen if things went wrong in Detroit and you had a bunch of me guys, or like, this guy's here to take my job or whatever, which happens in the NFL. But he was always that guy. He was, and you see him on his podcast, and when he does stuff, he's always trying to uplift corners everywhere around the league, and people would get pissed off about it because he's trying to help everybody. And he always wanted to start like all the position groups. You know, Lane's got O-line masterminds down in Texas every year, and that Von Miller's got his pass rushing camp, and tight end university has become a big thing with Kelsey and Greg Olson, and all those things have become and he was always, he's like, we're like selfish. We gotta start. He was always trying to start that, to try to help everybody around the league. And maybe still, now that he's got more time, and then Eagles fans should love him, because to the end, you know, when the whole plan was the Eagles were going to claim him off waivers when Pittsburgh released him late last season, and Buffalo beat him to it, and he didn't report. And the only team he was going to report to is the Eagles.
Yeah, I saw that. Good stuff for Darius Slay. John, that'd be pretty big if he gets into the Eagles Ring of Honor. There's only 2 in there, John. I'm looking at the Eagles website right now. The only cornerbacks in the Eagles Ring of Honor are, guess who? Are Troy Vincent and Eric Allen, obviously, who was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame as well recently. So only 2 in there, Johnny Mac, and quite a few names that are left off that list. That'd be pretty big if Slay got in.
Yeah, well, you know, haven't had a ton of history before the current era of, you know, tremendous players. And you're going to have a bunch of guys from this era waiting to get in. So you're not going to have any shortage, which is another thing about this era of Eagles football. You know, the Bobby Taylors, Sheldon Browns, people like that people like to fondly remember.
Shepard not in. Yep.
They're not Darius Slay. I mean, people fondly remember them. They're not 6-time Pro Bowl corners. I mean, this guy's, I'm not going to say he's a Hall of Famer, but he's a borderline Hall of Famer. He's going to get discussed.
Yeah, I believe it.
So yeah, I think he's a cut above amongst most of the guys that people feel good about, and maybe the revisionist history glasses.
Yep, no doubt. Johnny Mac, he sounds like he's one of your guys that you enjoyed covering, Darius Slay.
Oh yeah, great dude. I mean, everybody saw his personality. Some people took it the wrong way, but I mean, he was the nicest guy in the world, and always trying to make people laugh. Always trying to, like I said, always trying to get people involved. You know, it's one of those things where I think fans don't realize, you know, sometimes it can be really difficult to move to a new city that you have no history with, and you don't know where anything is, and you have to learn just the logistics of everyday life. And you might be 22 years old and never done it before. Now you have a nice little chunk of money that helps, but still, it's not easy. And you know, a lot of these guys are away. You know, think about the holidays. You're away from your family. They might be in Texas or Florida or California, and you're in Philadelphia, and you don't have anywhere to go.
Yeah, right.
And you know, Slay and his wife would, you know, always invite young players to do things and have dinner and things like that. So I mean, it's little things like that. And the Devin Allen, that's what I wrote about. When I think everybody thinks about on-field stuff, and they'll talk about how he shut down Justin Jefferson, which I said, like, you know, to me, that's like being at that game. That was like watching an NBA 50-point scorer. He was just locked in, you know, he was in the zone.
When was that, John? 21 or 22?
22, I think.
22.
Yeah, I looked it up yesterday, but I already forgot. You know, that's what it reminded me. And people go, and obviously the reason why, but I always go to the off the field stuff. I always go to, like, you know, when Josh Jobe was getting bullied, he went to Slay. When like I said, the Devin Allen, the Penn Relays thing, that always sticks with me. That's the first thing I think of when I think of Slay. It's like, who else is doing that? You know, guy just shows up out of nowhere and he's rounding up people to go support him. It's rare. And I think that's the stuff I'll remember, but he was a hell of a player. And I don't want to dismiss that either.
No, I don't think you have. Good stuff for Darius Slay. Congratulations on a great career. 13 years for Darius Slay, 5 of them with the Philadelphia Eagles. All right, so pretty awesome for